Hey YouTube, how you going? Spanish Gem 669 here, doing another review. Now this is a movie that I said I'd do a review of a long time ago. Um, Tonight's the night I'm going to be doing it, and that is an Australian horror film made in 2008, directed by John Hewitt, and that is Acolytes. Now, Australian horror films are few and far between. Not a lot have made, and in the past they've been pretty ordinary, except Wolf Creek. That was really one that stood out and was recognised worldwide. But this one hasn't been recognised as much. It's not as good as Wolf Creek, but it's very, very interesting. Deserves a lot of recognition. I mean, a lot of, as I said in my previous video, a lot of Australian films really good, but no one sees them because, I don't know, they're poorly marketed overseas, or I don't know the exact reasons, but Australian cinema has difficulty getting out there, and films like Wolf Creek, really good that got out there because it's a very, very good film. But I just think smaller films such as this, they really need just to get out there, and I don't know how they do it because I'm not in the movie industry and I don't know exactly what it takes, but it's just a real pity that not a lot of people get to see it. But anyway, that's enough of me crapping on. I'll get on with the review. It's a pretty complicated sort of story, and being the fool that I am, I'll muck it up. So I'll read the story or the description off the back of the cover. It starts off: shy high schooler Mark, played by Sebastian Gregory, stumbles upon a fresh grave in the woods of his peaceful suburb and spies a four-wheel drive driving away from the scene. Together with his friends, James, played by Joshua Payne, and Chasely, played by Hannah Mangan Lawrence, they return to the woods to unearth what they imagine is buried cash or drugs. Their bit of fun turns perilous, however, when they uncover a body. The boys realize that their grim discovery could help them exact revenge upon their nemesis, Gary Parker, played by Michael Dorman. So they embark upon a hunt for the identity of the killer, played with frightening realism by Joel Edgerton. So basically, we have three teens, and they've been terrorized by a guy, a lunatic named Gary Parker. Now, it doesn't make it clear exactly what he did to these teens, but there's a pretty strong indication that he molested one of them. And he served jail time for it, and he's recently been released, and he's terrorizing them again. So they hang out in their little hangout area, which is the woods, and one day they spot this man burying something. So they're thinking, oh, it could be money, we'll see what it is. So they dig it up and they find it's a body. And so they're all freaked out, and they remember this car by a sticker on the back of it. And they don't know who it is. They think this guy is responsible for a number of other murders that are unsolved. And they're walking by and they spot the same four-wheel drive at a house nearby. And so they know this is the guy. And they come up with a plan. They ring him up and they say, kill this Gary Parker guy who's terrorizing them, or we're going to go to the police and dob you in. So they're blackmailing this guy. And so yeah, they're blackmailing a very intelligent serial killer. And they're in way over their heads. Things go from bad to worse very quickly, and it turns into a really sort of, they're way out of their depth. They had no idea what they've just got themselves into, and it goes on from there. A very, really, really interesting story. I have to say the atmosphere to this movie is one of the best I've ever felt. It rivals the atmosphere of Seven. In Seven, you really had a depressing sort of feel. This has a very similar one. Has some amazing shots. The color is very bleak, so it's a very depressing film, and definitely suits this kind of story. This director, John Hewitt, I haven't heard of him before, but he has a real talent for this genre, and I really think he should be encouraged to make more horror films, because while this one wasn't great, he certainly will improve, and the way he shoots his movies is just a breath of fresh air, especially from Australian cinema. I mean, Wolf Creek was really good, and the camera shots of the outback really set in the isolated feel, but I thought the atmosphere to this was a lot better. The acting, well, the three teens are little pricks. They're really unlikable, but you can understand that because of their past. They've been molested by this lunatic, so obviously they'd be troubled and just little wankers. So it's one of these movies where you can understand why they're so unlikable. Some movies you just get unlikable characters and they don't tell you why, but in this film you can really understand why they're unlikable. Got a lot of issues. They've had a very traumatic past, so all these things are understandable, which makes it tolerable. The serial killer Joel Edgerton, really good performance. He's always good in everything he does. He's a well-known Australian actor, and the guy who plays Gary Parker, the lunatic, he plays really good, seedy kind of perverted guy. You know this guy's just very troubled, and it's a good performance from him as well. Where this film is let down, I think it tried to be a little bit too tricky for its own good. I think the storyline was good, but I don't know, part of the film it just seemed like it was losing its way. It dragged a bit in certain areas. Other areas was really good, especially the ending was really creepy. And the scenes in the woods are beautifully shot, perfect atmosphere. Well, the whole film has a really good atmosphere. But yeah, as I said, where it lets itself down, I think it tried to get a little bit too fancy. Some scenes in particular, they dragged a little bit. And so, yeah, not huge criticisms. This is definitely a recommended film. It's not the best going out there. It won't top Wolf Creek. But yeah, Australian horror, few and far between. I don't know why Australia don't make more horror films, because we've got perfect locations for horror films. But yeah, hopefully this is the start of a new wave, just like the French have made a name for themselves. I think Australia can do the same thing. We don't have huge budgets here, but you don't need a huge budget to make a good movie. Just look at Wolf Creek, that was done on a very low budget, so this one too. But I think this one has the atmosphere is a lot better than Wolf Creek, and like I said, 7 really captured the atmosphere, the dirty, depressing sort of atmosphere really well, and this one rivaled the atmosphere. It's nowhere near as good as 7, but atmosphere-wise, it's definitely up there, right up there with the best. I really, it's definitely recommended for at least one view. Like, watch it once. And yeah, I can't wait to see what this director does next. I hope he stays in the horror genre because he's got a real knack for it. And yeah, as I said, Australian horror. I mean, it just needs a lot more support than it gets. The whole film industry in Australia needs a lot more support. They need to be marketed a lot better. I don't know the ways to go about that, but hopefully in the future things like more movies like this happen. And yeah, I know films like Australia, the movie Australia directed by Baz Luhrmann, they're really big, but I don't want to see them. They're all boring. I love my horror, and Australian horror. Go out and see this. Yeah, strongly recommended. It's not the best film. It dragged a little bit in some areas, but perfect atmosphere. Really creepy. Reasonable acting. And yeah, so get out there and see this film. That's Acolytes. Alright guys, hope this review proved useful, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.